Hey, Liz from Full Circle Co. here. Thanks so much for checking out this episode with Matt Greiner of August Burns Red. Matt and I have actually known each other for 15 years, and so you'll hear two friends catching up about drums and life. If you want to support Matt, we just dropped some new necklaces, bracelets, and drum keys to his Full Circle Co. collection. Everything that you see there is made from broken cymbals. You can check that out at fullcirclecompany.co/Matt. Thanks so much for checking out the Four on the Floor podcast. Welcome to the Four on the Floor podcast about drums and life. I am your host, Liz Aponte. I'm also the owner of Full Circle Company. And today our guest is Matt Greiner from August Burns Red. You probably know him from his insane blast beats and breakdowns. I know him as the person who taught me what a combine is and pickle burr. And for that, I thank you. Matt, welcome to the show.
Greatest setup. Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. You have traveled the world probably, for half your life at this point? 15,
I'm
20
38.
years?
I'm not sure I want to do this math.
You don't have to.
No, I do.
But for a while.
I do want to do it. I like math, and this is interesting. I haven't thought about this. So started the band when I was 17. So 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we started touring when I was 19. The first 2 years was us actually, we didn't even have a van at that point. It was just us putting stuff in our cars.
Yeah.
Like we were just talking about your car.
Yeah.
It was making me
That
think
would've
about
been nice.
That would have been nice. I had a 1987 Dodge Aries K car.
Okay.
It was like that color.
Nice.
The yellow, yeah. But
symbol color.
But yeah, actually it was a symbol color, but it was faded and it worked really well actually for hauling drums around. But we did everything that way for a while. Like we meet at the band practice space, load everybody's cars, drive to the show, load in.
Right.
And then our trajectory took us in a direction of, okay, now we're playing not only regionally, but we're going down to Florida and Tennessee.
Right.
And then we got signed.
Yep.
Started touring the United States, which took me out here to Salt Lake, where we are, in 2005.
Was that your first time in Salt Lake?
Yeah.
Nice.
With Bury Your Dead and Terror.
Nice.
And Scars of Tomorrow.
Nice.
I think we were opening that tour. In fact, I know we were. And Thrill Seeker had just came out. So that was what we were playing. And just a bunch of kids in a van. And actually, we did have a trailer at that time. And once we started touring the U.S., then it was like, hey, you guys should go to Europe. There's a whole different market over there.
Right.
And at that point, I was 19.
Okay.
Or 20. So let's just call it 18 years.
Yeah, 18 years. Well, that...
and we'll leave it there.
Yeah, 18 years.
18
Perfect,
years, yeah.
Perfect. So as you mentioned, we're in Salt Lake City right now, and I'm wondering, I know you've been here dozens of times. I'm wondering, when you think of this city, is there a memory that stands out to you?
Hugo. I have a memory. That was Salt Lake, right?
I don't want to be rude. Forgot about it, but it's been a while. Yeah. Wow.
I kind of did too, until we're talking about, like, do you have a memory of Salt Lake?
Yeah.
I have a couple memories of being here, but there was one in particular is a time we played. I don't even know where we were. We haven't played that venue in a while.
I think it's torn down and is now apartment. I'm pretty sure it's in the venue. A venue called like in the venue. Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. So this would have been 2010 or so.
Yep.
Because I started Brick by Brick because of that conversation. And so for those of you who are watching, what happened was being on tour, it's hard to, at the time, it was hard for me to say hi to somebody, get to know them, and then leave knowing that they were having a hard time. I feel like that's a fair way to assess that situation. And so what happened that night was we talked to a guy named Hugo, and Hugo was having a tough time, and Liz was there, and there were a couple other people too.
Alex was there, and I think a couple of our friends.
Your husband was there. Yeah. So I was like, hey guys, come together. Let's actually, pray for Hugo. And we like circled up, prayed for Hugo, and then I was like, I gotta go make sure I'm on the bus for bus call. So I remember getting on the bus and thinking, man, where's this kid going to go to church? Like, does he have anybody? I feel like we just gave him this this good thing.
Yeah.
We like opened a door to something that was helpful, and then we were all like, okay, have fun. Hopefully you can figure it out. And the door just like slammed shut in his face.
Right.
It was a weird feeling. And so I thought, man, it'd be really cool if we had a network of churches across the country that people could access and know that these are good places to go as a follow-up to our conversation. And that was Brick by Brick.
Yeah. Which
was a nonprofit that I never actually started.
It existed from what I remember.
I tried. I got tired of the meetings.
Yeah.
I was ready to just go.
Right.
I had the idea and we needed the money. And that's where the meetings came in, just trying to explain this idea to people who had good intentions, but it just kept getting stalled. Mm-hmm. And I was so busy with the band, honestly, that was the main stumbling block, was like, I can't put too much energy into this. So that's where I met Tim Anderson. Or I didn't meet him there, but I brought him into it.
Right.
And now years later, he called me and we started a podcast together.
Crazy. Crazy.
Called Holy Ghost Notes.
Yes.
So
great.
Good things come from from situations, even if the situation seems to yield nothing. It's
Absolutely.
not a loss.
And what you might not know too is that Alex and I developed a friendship with Hugo and a couple of his friends. Just over those years, I haven't talked to him in a while, but
yeah, I vaguely remember you saying that or finding that out.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he was at our wedding, like mine and Alex's wedding. Yeah. And then one of their friends, Colin, is like the reason why Alex is in his career right now. Like some of his family helped him get an internship. And
oh my gosh.
It just kind of compounded beyond belief. And it's one of those things that Alex and I actually look back on, where we're at now versus where we were then, where we were newly married, broke, and Alex was trying to find his footing after leaving the music industry. Mm-hmm. That we're just like, wow, God was there, and it wouldn't have happened without, you taking that just step out of your tour bus and wanting to connect with the people around you.
Yeah. So. It's so funny, man. Looking back, I feel like I get credit for things when even when my heart wasn't in the right place, Someone's trying to break into our podcast. Should we let them in?
I know. I don't know who it is.
You can do it. We got Simply Safe.
Yeah.
Lots of broken cymbals in here.
That's never happened before. As far as when I'm recording someone doing that, but that's funny that we talked about like people breaking in and stuff.
I love that. It's the first time.
They're fine. They can. It's probably like the male person or something. Yeah, it's fine.
New broken cymbals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was saying, honestly, my heart at that time was probably like, please affirm me. Please tell me I'm doing a good job. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm talking to people and they're trying to tell me about what the band's done for them or what their lyrics have done or something really important to them that they're sharing with me. And honestly, my heart at the time, like what I wanted might have been just like, wow, that was a really awesome drum performance. That's maybe why I was there in the first place. And it's just proof that God uses you even when you're not doing the right thing or not doing it for the right reason. Still uses it for his benefit and actually for yours too.
Right. Even though you might not see it at the time.
Yep.
I mean, sometimes it's about looking back on these moments years later and then with just the experience that you've had to be like, oh wow, that's what was actually happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think about that. Like before a show, my wife will pray with me and I'll stop and I'll close my eyes, away from the venue and I'll just try to center myself on the fact that it's amazing I get to do this. Like I get to be on stage playing drums. That is awesome. And then also, if I play really well, I know my tendency is to think about me and think about how good I am at drums or whatever it might be. Like I'm going to float in that direction. And so I have to constantly be like, no, stop it. You don't get to do that.
Right.
You know, like, yes, you have a gift that you've worked on and actually God gave it to you. And the best thing you can do is say, man, this is so awesome. I get to do this. And hopefully it's fun for everybody and everybody's having a great time and God gets the glory. And the worst thing you can do is make it about yourself. Because what happens is the next day, if you play a really good show, the next day you're like, I hope I could do that again. Well, now your knees are knocking and this anxiety kicks in. I don't know if I could do this. Yeah, you're constantly raising this bar. And there's no joy in that. But if you get up there and you say, man, I was created for God, by God. Like my drumming is for God and it was created by him. Then it takes all the pressure off. And you know why you're doing it. And it's so easy to say this, but every night, like tonight at the show, I'm going to have to do this. It's a constant thought or action you have to take because we're sinful and our tendency is to be selfish and to make it about ourselves. But because we live in a world that's the opposite of what the Bible says, when you're weak, he is strong. That's an upside down kingdom. And you constantly have to remind yourself of that. If you can take that on though, and you can be standing there talking to Hugo and not be looking for that affirmation, if you can be standing there saying, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to do here? You're going to get so much more joy out of the situation because you're not empty of this thing you're never going to get from somebody else, which is validation.
Right. 100%. That's incredible.
It's pretty wild looking back. I mean, that's 13 years. I'm still working on this, obviously.
Well, it is like a choice, like, and in a lot of ways, a discipline to just do something different, think of others, think of God, love what God has given to you, but also not mess it up. But if you mess it up, it's okay. That's how we learn as well. And so that unconditional love is so important. But yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I love that. I think most people might see touring and music and might compartmentalize where it's, oh, my tour life is this, which has nothing to do with that. And then my home life is I go to church and do all this stuff. So that kind of leads into one of the questions I had for you, where I think us as fans look at the bands that we love and the people that are in them and think, wow, they must be living the dream. They get to play drums for a living and tour the world.
Right.
What I think us as fans don't realize is there's another thing potentially for you to hold with that, which is the sacrifices you make being on the road. Yeah. And so I'm wondering how you strike a healthy balance between fulfilling your professional career while also maintaining strong connections with your loved ones at home. And how maybe that's changed from the earlier days to now. I imagine it's very different.
It's changed a lot. I was just talking about this yesterday with Annie. FaceTime is amazing.
I'm sure.
It's crazy. Yeah, I have a little 2.5-month-old at home. And when I left home, she was not cooing and making the sound she is now. And like, for example, my brother looks like me and he went over to the house maybe 2 weeks ago. And Annie took a video of my daughter like looking at my brother thinking like, is that Matt? Is that Dad? I can't tell. Just cooing. It was the cutest video. All she has to do is push record, stop record, text message it to me, and it makes your day. It makes your day. And you go back 15 years, you had a binder on the dashboard with MapQuest, printed out MapQuest directions. I mean, it is.
I remember those. Yeah,
wild.
Printed out. There was no Yelp. Like you just ate around like what you saw. Yeah.
Yeah, Denny's. A lot of fast food. That's
In-N-Out if you're in California.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. We ate a lot of fast food in the early days. So bad for us. now we get like Whole Foods and all the good stuff shopped for us on our bus, and there's been so much amazing change. But technology has really made it easier to be away from family. It's really an awesome thing when you can just FaceTime your wife or partner or your kids or your parents and just say hi, because being out here is hard. It's a sacrifice. It's not hard in the sense that you're pouring concrete or that you're digging holes or that you're putting a new roof on houses. Like you can't complain about it like that. You can't talk about it like that because it's not the same kind of challenge. It's more of, like you said, a sacrifice. You're giving up time, which is the most important asset you have, with the people who are giving up time with you, and they're going about their life on their own, and so it takes a really supportive family, or really not even supportive friends, but understanding friends who, when you go home, you see them, you say hi, and it doesn't take a while to catch up. Hey, how you doing? Give them a hug, high five, and you're right back at it. It takes those kind of friends. Right. Partner-wise, it takes the kind of person who sees the value in what you're doing as important enough, not just earning a living, but hey, you could be earning a living at home, but this is where you're supposed to be. Like, right. I see how much you like this. I see how good you are at doing this. I see how much work it's taken you to get here. It's that kind of selfless observation from other people that it takes.
Yeah.
And then for you, like I was saying earlier, it takes perspective. I constantly have to remind myself, like, my truck's in the garage at home. I have a farm with 10 acres of woods. You have to remember that, because on tour you get so tunnel vision about what's happening that you forget, and that's bad. You can never forget where you came from. You always have to remember what you're going home to, because right. That's where your footing is. That's where you get your perspective from.
Right. Yeah, if you're just living, imagine if it was just a hard day on tour and you're living in that moment, it would be horrible.
Yeah.
You know?
You do dumb stuff.
Right.
You get in a bad mood that you can't snap out of, and
right.
You treat other people poorly. Like, that's I used to play a bad show, go to the corner of the van and sit there with my arms crossed because I was afraid to see anybody, because I played bad, right?
Right.
And it's performance based.
Right.
So if someone comes up to me before the show and they say, "You're the most amazing drummer," what does it do? It creates anxiety, because now I have to be the most amazing drummer. I haven't played yet. If someone comes up to me after the show and they say, "You're the most amazing drummer," what does it do? It makes me cocky, because they just saw me play and they still have that idea. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that, as a musician, I don't think everybody deals with that, but that's something internally that you're working through. And, right. And maybe you're listening or watching this and you work in an industry that's like this.
Right.
And you know, you can probably relate to that, where it's like, if there's an expectation, it can create a lot of anxiety. If you're not getting on the stage and saying, "I can't believe I get to do this. This is amazing." Because there's no room for anxiety when there's gratitude. The thankfulness, being glad you get to do something, you just can't believe it. This is amazing. I cannot believe I get to do this. There's no way you're feeling nervous. Well, maybe nervous, but not anxious when you're having that kind of reaction.
Right. Yeah, that perspective seems so important. And It also seems like maybe there's some people out there that just have that, but it feels like something you have to kind of trudge through and go through those emotions to really understand what that means.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a practice, and it takes like, my wife's so good at this. She's so before I left for this tour, I was like, man, these parts are hard. A lot of hard drum parts on this album.
Yeah.
And she's like, Matt, you practiced a lot for this tour. Like, you missed a lot of football games that you wanted to watch on Sundays. I was like, huh. She's like, I went to bed, you weren't home yet, and I went to bed and you were still practicing. Like, and then that makes me think, man, we both sacrifice things so that we can do this. Yeah. And it ramps you up to be able to say, I know I can do this. Mm-hmm. I put in the work. You know, having someone like that to remind you is really cool.
Priceless. Yeah. Amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. And you constantly cycle that in your head.
Like it's not just like, oh, you're going to do a good job. And, you know, it's a friend trying to encourage you. But yeah, especially a spouse partner like sees that. And that reminder is so helpful. We mentioned farming a little bit earlier. And I'm sure people know already, but I know I was surprised to hear the first time several years ago that, you know, your family basically has an agricultural legacy in Greiner Farms, which is amazing and not something you hear mostly from like metal drummers, let alone musicians.
Yeah, that's very true.
And so I think, I don't think I'm alone when I say I've learned so much about farming through you, not just the pickle burr and stuff like that, but just more so an appreciation for the hard work and dedication and art that farming is. So I'm wondering, how does farming impact your daily life? But then also, how does it impact your broader worldview?
That's a great question. I was born and raised on a farm. And you go through this phase of loving what you're doing because your dad does it and it's a part of your family and it's what you were raised doing. It's all you know. Into your teenage years where you're like, I hate this. I could be at the football game, but I'm here working in the fields on a Friday night. At least that's how I felt. Oh, man, I have to do this. I can't go and walk around the Manheim Central Barons football game and check out all the girls and you know, get French fries. Like, you feel like you're really missing out, you know, and then you grow up and then you return to what you loved in the first place, which is exactly what happened to me. And I bought into the farm. I farm with my two brothers, and my dad is the one who gets all the credit, who took it over from his dad and really made it what it is today and passed it down to us. He's still involved. He loves it, and we need him. So, Dad, if you ever watch this, we need you. We need you. I think you know that, but just to reiterate it on a podcast in Salt Lake City. But there are a lot of things that I think about when you ask the question. First thing that popped in my mind was it's really hard to make money, and being in a band, sometimes you forget that. Because you get paid at the end of the tour, weeks after the tour is over, and you get paid one lump sum, and it's good money at our level. It wasn't always that way, but it can be easy to forget how hard it is to make money. So farming reminds you quickly.
I mean, one of those things that keeps you grounded
absolutely.
As well. Yeah.
Extremely grounded.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we don't have to go into it, but we buy truckloads of chicken manure. We spend money.
You buy poop.
We buy poop. We buy poop, folks. That's the real revelation. And the reason we do that is because there's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, NPK, in chicken manure. And we need those so our soil is healthy and able to grow the crops that we're planting: corn, soybeans, wheat. So it's an important part of the system. But when you're out there spreading chicken manure, it reminds you, this is real life.
Yeah.
This is real life, and you're not above anything.
Right.
You're not above anything, and I personally love that because it takes me back to my roots. It reminds me of what's really important. As to the money part of it, first thing I thought of was when you said what is it? I forget how you phrased it, but it was really well said. Like, what lessons do you take from farming that you apply to tour?
How does it impact your daily life? Not only your daily life, but your like broader worldview.
Right.
As well. Yeah.
So throwing straw bales in July, stacking them on the wagon, getting hit in the face by them, getting decked on the wagon, you're sweating your butt off. You sell a straw bale for about $5.
Wow.
And prior to selling it, if you work in backwards order, you're stacking it in the hay mound, you're loading it into the hay mound, you're stacking it in the wagon, you're raking it. No, you're not raking it because we use the combine. You're cutting it, you're baling it, and then you're combining it prior to that, and then you're planting it prior to that. So all in reverse order. $5 a bale. Seriously.
That's insane.
It's hard work,
Yeah.
and it's an honest occupation.
Yeah. Well, people like me, like, we don't know, so we don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we don't want to pay more than $5.
$5.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of grass. Yeah. So, okay. So then you take that and you play a show and you think, wow. You know, once again, we're back to the gratitude point. I can't believe I get to do this. I mean, literally, you're hitting stuff. That's what you're doing for work. You're hitting stuff in order. And so it's an important thing. It's easy to lose that mindset when you're on tour. Like I said before, farming is so awesome. Going back to it and growing your own crops, having so much opportunity to, you know, who knows, maybe down the road we get a bunch of chickens. There's just so many different things you can do, you know, having land, especially in Pennsylvania where our topsoil is really, really good. Nice. Like Lancaster County topsoil. It's known to be, it's some of the best, and we're really fortunate to have a farm there. Soil
is everything when you're farming.
Yes,
so
it is.
That's incredible.
Yep. And weather.
Yeah.
Which you cannot control.
Right. That's so scary. I know. Switching gears a little bit, just back to music. Mm-hmm. You know, the equipment I use, the gear I use, has been really important over the years. And so I think back fondly of, you know, my first CB drums kit to where I've gotten now, but everything in between. And, you know, some of it has a lot of meaning and a lot of value. And there's even things I've sold. I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't sell it because now it just has so much value to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if there's things in your setup, you know, in your drum setup from the past, one thing that stands out to you that means a lot to you, and then something in your current setup right now that has some meaning as well.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. My blast bell. In 2010, I drove up to Massachusetts, and I was like, man, I just want to make a bell that doesn't have the Zill bell has its place, but it would be the A of cymbals, and I wanted the K. I wanted the dark, muted, you know, dissonant harmonic overtone bell. Yep. And so I drove up there with a few ideas, and Paul Francis at Zildjian baked a bunch of 7-inch and 9-inch bells, and I still have some of them. I mean, one I'm using tonight, the 7-inch.
Oh, nice.
It's the actual original. Wow. But now they're made and they're sold in stores, and you know, we worked to develop it and match it as close as we could. But that original, for sure.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I don't use, but I did, is the 19-inch Sabian AA Extreme China that I used on Messengers. I have it.
Classic.
Yep. It's cracked in a couple places. I signed it because I thought I was going to, you know, sell it or give it away or something at the time, and I never did, thankfully. Yeah. But I just re-recorded it on a drum sample pack that cool. We're gonna see how it sounds. It's cracked, so I'm not sure if it's gonna stand up to a brand new one or not.
Right.
But it was fun to sample. It was fun to, like, you know, bring it out of my drum museum, take it down to the studio and hit it. And
I'm sure.
It actually sounds terrible. Like in the room and under them, it sounds awful. So I don't know. On the album, apparently Tom 2 microphone is what picked up the China.
Oh, okay.
Our producer
just through
said
cymbal bleed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the microphone that was used to capture the China cymbal.
Wow.
China. I don't know what happened. I guess maybe there was no spot mic on the China.
Yeah.
So he used that. Excuse me. Still waking up over here. But I'd say that piece is pretty important. And then, of course, I have, like, my first, you know, set of pedals, like my Tama Iron Cobras with the yellow strap.
Iron Cobras.
So cool. I have a bunch of that stuff in my little drum museum in my house.
That's amazing.
I'll just never get rid of.
Yeah.
Like if your house is on fire, what are the first things you grab? You know, you go in, you get this, and then I'm definitely getting that. Yeah. What are you doing grabbing those? Yeah. What about your safe?
Yeah, it's all good. That's awesome. So I started Full Circle Company because I had, speaking of cymbals, just, broken and cracked cymbals that I would play out with or teach other drummers on, and it had so much meaning and value that I couldn't just get rid of it. So I repurposed them into bottle openers at first that I gave away as gifts to friends, and their reaction was like, they're like, wait, what? And so that kind of spawned me to do like necklaces and what it is now. But I named the company Full Circle not just because a cymbal is a circle, but from the material kind of coming full circle, where it was a metal and then it was made into a usable cymbal. Someone used it so much that it cracked or broke, and they were maybe going to throw it away or give it back or figure out something to do with it. But then we take it and then we revive it into something you could wear proudly. So I'm wondering for you if there's a moment in your career where you could say you've had a full circle moment.
I didn't know some of that. That's really cool. And your name's awesome.
Thanks.
I can't think of a more appropriate name. The double meaning.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is I took my wife on 2 dates back in 2011. I think it was a long time ago, and picked her up at our local Christian college. I had seen her the first time I remember seeing her. I was walking out of the main performance hall, and I saw this really, really pretty girl, and she just caught my eye. And my sister went to the school, so I said, Joanna, who is that girl? And she's a twin, actually. So I think we had to sort that out, and then it was like, well, okay, it's her name's Annie. Okay, so I got her number, picked her up, went out for coffee, took her out again, and we went our separate ways. I was really focused on drumming at the time and not a whole lot else.
That was like leveler era.
Yeah,
then? Yeah,
it was leveler.
Yeah, like peak. Yeah,
peak. Like I'm really busy.
Yeah,
8 or 9 months out of the year. We were busier in like 08 to 10, but anyway, I was focused on what I was focused on, and she was in college, so she was really focused and dedicated and hardworking, and we lost touch. And years went by, and a lot of life happened, and I was in Europe on tour, and I remember seeing a picture of her getting hired for a local radio station. And I first thought in my mind was like, wow, there's no way that girl's still single. And so I texted her from Europe, and I didn't say,
are you still single? Good. That's what
I didn't say that either.
Good. Yeah.
I said, but I didn't say who I was either. I just I didn't say this is Matt. I just was like, hi.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Would you like to go out when I'm home and catch up? So something like that. Real basic. And she replied, and she's like, who is this? So I was like, oh no. Ended up going out.
Yeah.
And she waited a while over the course of like the next 2 years then for me to get myself in a good place to, be in a committed relationship again. Yeah. And we got married.
Amazing.
And I find out that she had really, in a sense, waited for me to get my ducks in line, get my ducks in a row, and not have drumming at the top, and maybe look a little more towards home and what I have there. And
right.
And she at one point, realized like this isn't going to work out, and she it's just so crazy to me when I think about how she waited and waited and waited and then realized, okay, I think this is done, and gave up on it. And then a couple years after that, I'm seeing a picture of her reaching out, and now we're married and we have a little girl.
That's insane.
And it's like,
that's amazing.
Don't give up hope. Like, if you believe in something, don't look for the answer today or this month or this year. Even if it seems like there is no hope, don't give up. Keep pursuing what's right. Don't lose sight of what you're doing and what you're supposed to be doing, but don't give up. Because, had Annie given up, I wouldn't be with her. And had I given up on the idea of like being with someone and, starting a family, I wouldn't be with her. And so you never know. 2011 or so, those first 2 dates,
crazy.
You had no idea what you were doing. You were just going out for fun, coffee dates. And years later, you build a life with them, with a whole lot in between.
Right. Which makes it possible to have what you have now, which is kind of crazy,
That's the other thing too. It's like had everything not happened in between 2011 and now, I wouldn't be the kind of spouse I need to be.
Right.
Like I learned a lot of valuable lessons.
Right.
And that was important for me. I mean, obviously, God knew that was the plan. He's a good God, and he's powerful enough to affect the kind of change we need in the world, but he also loves us enough. He gives us free will.
Right.
So here we are all these years later. I went through a lot of life. She went through a lot of life, and now we're fit for each other. Like that needed to happen. That was part of the plan.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That's incredible.
Pretty full circle.
Yeah. Yep. Ta-da. Oh, I love that. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for your time. Before we go, I have some pieces here because you have done many collabs with Full Circle Company, which we love. We always love to do that. We always love to do something different as well. So these ones are the ones that are currently available. But yeah, we did something a little different where we took some wood, some resin, and inlaid them with your whale. So we have bracelets, we have necklaces. This one in the middle is a drumstick necklace from your actual drumstick that you've used. And yeah, I think they turned out really pretty cool. Sweet.
I love this idea with the drumstick. That was really creative.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question about Full Circle.
Yeah, sure.
So what is one of your favorite things about having this company? I mean, it's a lot of work to do this. I've seen the rooms here, the shipping room and the manufacturing room, and you obviously painted this wall, built this whole space out. Probably spend a lot of time here.
Yeah.
You don't always have
especially
good
the
days.
last week to 2 weeks.
Black Friday sales. You have to deal with customers who at times are maybe throwing a fit. So what is it that centers you on like, okay, I got to come back to what this is all about?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think a lot of it is honestly at first not even believing that I can do it. I think that there's probably a little something in all of us, but I know for myself just can have a lot of self-doubt or fear. And so I feel like Full Circle is my own project of continuing to challenge and remind myself that I can do this. I do have good ideas. And to be honest, as a female in kind of in the music world in general, it could be really intimidating, especially then when you're working with cymbals and lasers and, stuff like that, where traditionally you don't see a lot of women in those spaces.
Right.
Thankfully, just kind of talking about like everything we've been through, just in drumming, I've had a lot of that already. So if I just kind of started Full Circle, 3 years ago, fresh, without that experience, I don't know if I would have the belief and the grit to be able to keep going. But yeah, it's been a lot of change this year specifically. I went full time with it just earlier
That's
this year,
so awesome.
which is really scary.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was able to, I think it took a lot of time to get there, but trust myself and know this is a good idea. And that mostly like, I can make it happen. I can do it. And a lot of that, came from, we talked about just partner support. So Alex just reminding me, really of reality and the truth when I wasn't able to see it. God working in my life in other ways, and realizing that. And then too, like the customers and people just being stoked on what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And
telling us, things that maybe I'd heard before, but just hold way more weight when now I'm kind of doing this full time and just trying to make it as cool as it could be. So yeah, I think it's just interesting because sometimes I want it easy. I want it to just sales come easily and all this stuff. But there's something about the challenge. There's something about trying to figure it out where it's more than just getting enough sales. It's like, oh, this is kind of like I'm learning about what I think about myself in this. And that's been kind of a gift in and of itself. I think it feels so good when it, works out. And I've gotten to a place now where like, if it works out and things go well, cool. But if it doesn't, it's a learning opportunity, right? Where in the past I would like shatter me and be like, should I even, do this?
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, I think it's amazing how you pivot. Like I see that in your career, just in your life. You're a drummer. Okay. It's like, well, that's not going to pay the bills right now.
Right.
So, okay, I'm going to try this. I was working for this company, doing this under this person. Okay. Yep. That's good. But I have this idea. I'm going to try this.
Right.
And you just keep finding your way until now I feel like you've like kind of nuzzled in, you're
gotten cozy.
Yeah. Don't get too cozy. Too cozy. That means people got to start buying more and more of your product. Make this place double and triple.
Yeah.
But I think I think that's pretty awesome to think about. The first time that I had something you made was 2008 Warped Tour.
Yeah.
My Respira snare. I mean, you've been doing this almost as long as I have in your own way.
Yeah.
You've been creating and innovating and building and designing and working. I started the band in 2003. That was 2008. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And here you are, you have this business and you've taken risks to be here. It takes sacrifice. It takes a supportive spouse. And there's a lot of commonalities actually between us. And probably if you're watching and listening to this, you probably relate to a lot of this. So
too as well. Yeah. 100%. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for your time.
I'm really proud of you.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I think another tidbit too is like, which I'm sure you can relate to, and people listening can, but just staying curious as well. That's been important to me. Just like, hey, let's do something different here. It keeps it fresh, and I think that's why I've kind of gone. I mean, it's many years I'm in something, but kind of like let me stay curious here. Where I think even that way with drumming too. Just whether it's in writing drum parts or progressing or the way you practice, just not if you hit a wall, just instead of getting frustrated and hitting that wall, being like, well, let me stand back. Let me stay curious. How else can I approach this?
Yeah, that's a good point. You care. And because you care, you're not going to just stay at a 9-to-5 for 40 years. Right. That's what happens. That's what would happen if it was like, well, I don't really have any ideas that I'm really... Somebody's breaking in.
Yeah. Yes. Come in. You're good.
Come in. Hi. Welcome to the podcast.
This is Chrissy and her daughter, Laura.
Hi. Hi, Laura.
Lorelai, this is my friend, Matt. Can you say hi? That's amazing. We're just recording. We're wrapping up here, but yeah, go ahead. Okay. Yeah, you're good.
Make sure you say something.
Yeah.
Okay, that was good. Is this your
employee?
Employee?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, we're talking about commitment to a thing. You have an employee now.
I know. Yeah, every 2 weeks, I'm like, I have a very real number, and that number is payroll. She's got a family to support.
Yep, absolutely.
You know? Yeah, which is amazing. I think that's amazing too. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah.
You care, and you've been committed to this for a long time. It looks, it's looked different over the years,
right.
Whether it's making snare drums or working for, another company or doing this. But it's the same thing on tour. It's like, I remember Jordan from As They Die told me years ago, the second you get up on stage and you're not nervous, you don't have that rush, is the day you should go home.
Right.
So true. You don't belong on tour anymore because you just don't care. Mm-hmm. And you with caring comes a certain amount of burden and responsibility, and that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if not, I feel I've even experienced the opposite at a job where it's just kind of taking from you instead of you being able to willingly, not give in a negative way, but you're learning, you're growing. It's kind of the opposite. So it's just not worth it. And I've seen people that have toured and just are very, very unhappy. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the best thing to do in that situation is, just to try something new, even though it might be scary, because it's like,
mm-hmm.
Alex kind of went through that when
mm-hmm.
he was touring, and then he's like,
mm-hmm.
I have like a 1.5 GPA. Like,
mm-hmm.
what am I going to do? But sometimes just going straight through that fear is the way that something else amazing, could happen. And just, keeping that belief that we talked about earlier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keep working.
Yep.
Do it for the right reason.
100%. Cool. Anything else you want to share?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me.
Nice. Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Excited to see you guys play tonight. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right,
thanks for watching.
Bye.
Cool. Peace.